the more you shift how you see, the more you'll uncover who you are. This is Perspective with Corey Katuna. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Perspective Podcast. I still haven't decided if I want to call it just Perspective, like this is Perspective, or this is the Perspective Podcast, or this is Perspective Podcast. I think, whatever, nobody cares. So welcome back anyways to the Perspective Podcast, or to Perspective with me. I'm Corey Katuna. And today what I want to get into, this is such an important topic. I'm going to talk about it a lot, but I just wanted to start it, like get the ball rolling on this topic because it's so central to almost everything else I'm going to be talking about. And I want to introduce it or like get into it by means of a little story or like a little access point. Maybe even I could start it with a question. So think about this. And in general, as I go into topics like this, I encourage you to just apply them, sort of like sort of see if they can be useful for you, see if they can be applied to you in your life and where you're at. I think oftentimes it'll be the case that it's like near universal, some of the stuff that I'm talking about. So with this topic, consider this question: what makes a friendship or a situation feel safe? And I don't mean like physically safe from harm. I mean emotionally safe, psychologically safe, so first maybe pose that question to yourself, like what is the feeling of social safety? Or what is the feeling of safety in some type of context, like in a relationship, in a friend group, in your family? And again, I don't mean physically safe. I'm not talking about abuse. I'm not talking about, I don't know. I'm not talking about those sort of objective forms of safety. I'm talking about the experience of safety. And this word and this concept has been so bastardized with this whole sort of woke. It's not only woke. It's like the whole progressive, and by progressive I don't mean liberal. I just mean like the Western world, like the progressive Western world where we have these strong morals and ethics, and we've like got it dialed in. And then once everything is kind of dialed in and everybody's kind of taken care of, and there's nothing sort of big and existential that we're battling in our society, what tends to happen is we get overly sort of obsessed with compassion and acceptance and tolerance and safe spaces. And this has been this huge thing. I think finally now it's starting to balance itself back out. This has been a big thing over the last 10 or 15 years, I guess, where we've so emphasized this idea of being a safe space, or being a safe, holding safe space for somebody else, that we miss what makes actual safety. We overlook what actually creates a sense of safety. Like, does it work? Does it work? Does it work to have a safe space where we really hear each other out? And I totally understand your lived experience. And thank you for telling me your personal truth, and yes, of course, we can make additional accommodations for you to make sure that you feel very safe, because you're not in a privileged group. And all of us privileged people need to make sure that you feel very safe. We need to walk on eggshells. Everyone needs to make sure they don't offend each other. Don't say anything politically correct, because if you do that, that's abusive. That's abuse. You're abusing your privilege. You're abusing your power, and you are oppressing. And that is violent. You see the slipstream of this perspective? So this whole strange fetishization of safety has made things not feel safe. So if you actually go check, do people feel more or less safe as a result of this downward spiral as a result of this trend? Does it actually make people feel more safe or less safe to be coddled and to be like overly taken care of? You know, and then now we're getting into microaggressions. And no, that's you, you know, used a gendered term. You didn't make eye contact. You did make eye contact. You did it. And now everything is just this subjective sense of what makes me feel unsafe. And then if I can subjectively say that I feel unsafe, I'm the authority on my own experience. So I know if you made me feel unsafe, and if you made me feel unsafe, you owe reparations. You have to repent. You have to make up to me. And then there's, of course, no real way to make up. There's no real way to repair. So you guys, I think you get the idea. My question is, what actually makes something safe? Like what actually makes, whether it's like your school or your friend group or your community, or like what makes a situation feel safe actually? So yes, okay, if they're like visibly, deliberately attacking you, only with the intent to undermine your perspective, to undermine you, coming from sheer bias, and they just want to make you look bad in front of people. They just want to attack your reputation. They just want to take you down. They just want to cancel you. Okay, so that doesn't feel safe, obviously. So that's the other side of the coin. We don't want to go fully toward bullying. You know, I've seen some of these like comedy pages that say like bring bullying back, and I get why. You know, I get the pendulum. Like we're so coddled, so it's like let's bring bullying back and like, you know, let men be masculine again and let people make fun of each other again and like roast and get physically hurt a little bit here and there. So I get the bring bullying back correction to this counterproductive movement of over coddling and like over safe spacing. But then that's not totally safe either, you know. Obviously, a culture of like just sheer bullying and being mean to each other. And then think about how that's going to evolve. Politics, more and more politics, in groups and out groups, physical violence. You know, we don't want that either. That's like literally what we appreciate about the West, about democracies. This is why non-democratic cultures move to democratic cultures. You know, that's like what civilization is that we're no longer doing violence and you know, it's like anarchy. We're no longer in that sort of chaotic mess. There is the rule of law. I think you guys are starting to get a feel for how we're just going to go all over hell's half acre in some of these conversations, huh? So what makes a safe space? What makes something actually safe? Because bullying doesn't do it, you know, nobody really believes that either. It's sort of like it's a correction. And this whole thing about this, like this coddled approach is so convincing because people feel guilty for privilege. And the thing is, tolerance is good. It's like a virtue taken too far. Tolerance, acceptance, protecting each other, compassion. These are virtues that can be taken too far. I remember seeing this, what was it? It was kind of like the paradox of tolerance. And tolerance is good. We want tolerance. We want tolerance. We want tolerance. But do we tolerate the tyrant? Do we tolerate the person who says, okay, if you don't all accommodate my every demand, then you're intolerant? Do we also accommodate that person? Do we tolerate the person who's physically violent in the name of reparations or in the name of, you know, getting their due? Do we tolerate that? Or then do we need to become intolerant? I mean, obviously, if you're a parent or if you've ever sort of had to maintain order, you know that you can't tolerate everything. You can't tolerate everything, even though tolerance, of course, is a virtue. Compassion, of course, is a virtue. But you can't be compassionate toward everything. At some point, you have to draw the line. At some point, chaos would ruin your civilization or your friendship or your your life if you don't have some parameters, if you don't have some boundaries, obviously. Okay, back to my original question. What makes something feel safe? Let me just do it in the context of friend groups. What makes a friend group or a friendship safe? What makes it actually feel safe? So I've been noodling over this. I knew I wanted to have this conversation because I have many friends, some of whom are not into this sort of inner excavation, deep work that I'm into. I would just call it spirituality or self-knowledge or like existential learning or transformation or I don't know really how to talk about it. Never have really known how to talk about it, but you get the idea. It's like the work of enlightenment, the work of awakening. This is my life. And I have many friends who are not into this work very much. Some of them might have some context from like their yoga classes or their business mentorships or their religion, but some are not so into this real deep work of inner excavation. And that's totally okay. But then I'm used to being around people, my teammates, the people I work with, my business partner, Bentino, my teacher, all of us are deep, deep, deep in this work, in these conversations. So there's no pretense. There's no sort of politeness. There's no like, oh, I better not go there because they're not comfortable with this. They don't know this. They're not used to this territory. With one of my non-spiritual friends, I had like a little scare, which was kind of sweet and interesting. And it was because so this person has a little pattern and they want to get over this pattern. So, and we're in contact fairly often. And so I'll sort of hear the results of like when this person fails or when they don't get over this pattern and they're down on themselves and they're regretting it. And they're like, what is wrong with me? Why do I keep doing this? So I'm so sort of familiar with this. I've coached many people, worked with many people, worked on these kind of things in myself. So I know this kind of territory, like the territory of approaching a breakthrough, basically, and then how to have a breakthrough. So I gave some unsolicited advice, which is what we all do with each other. It's a friend group. And it was so interesting because it made this person feel more insecure, more sad. And this was like, where my advice came from was like, you fucking got this. Like, this is where you're at a crossroads and there's a breakthrough ahead. Like, stay the course. You got this. I'm with you. That's what my vibe was. But it hurt for this person to hear because they are identified with this pattern. They haven't had the breakthrough yet. They're pre-breakthrough. They haven't crossed that threshold where they're like free. So anyway, I gave unsolicited advice. I mean, you could say it's solicited. We all just give each other advice and we talk. It's a normal group. And okay, what caused the scare was the feeling that this person started, they basically got in their mind that I was attacking them. I'm exaggerating, but that was sort of the tone that they got, which was so different from the tone that I actually had, which was so different from the intention that I actually came with. But they got in their mind that I was judging them, that I was attacking them, and that I was giving them like extreme, insensitive, and like harsh advice or feedback or input. And what was really cool, of course, was that they were receptive when I corrected, when I was like, hey, you put words in my mouth. This is not what I said. This was not my intent. This was my intent. Unfortunately, there were others there who were like, hold on, did you hear what Corey actually said? Because this is what she said. So fortunately, I had a little bit of backup. But that was such a familiar moment. I've had this happen so many times where I'm on this person's team totally. I'm invested in what they want for themselves. They've already made it clear that this is something they want for themselves. We're in constant communication about this potential breakthrough for them. And then when I weigh in, when I drop a little truth bomb, when I sort of reveal like, this is your opportunity, make the right decision, seize this opportunity to like up level and sort of break free from the confines of your ego, basically. So I'm shining light on something that has previously been dark, something that I have always done, something that I want from my friends. I want my friends to do this. I always do this for my friends, and I value most the friends who do this for me. And this person interpreted that as judgment and an attack, which I've had happen so many times. Why? Because this person was still identified with the version of them, the past version or the part of themselves that had that pattern, that had that addiction, that hadn't yet had the breakthrough. They still identified with that. They were still protective of that. They were still defensive of that. So I was attacking them. That's what it felt like to them, was that I was their opponent, that I was not on their team, that I was their enemy. And this was so familiar to me. It's what happened with the negative PR that Bentinho has gotten, and I've sort of gotten by proxy or as a result, as a byproduct. It's the same exact mechanism where we have an intention. There's an intention. It's literally the same exact mechanism. And fortunately, with my friend, they got it, and it wasn't a big deal. And they had moving through the breakthrough. They saw that I am on their team. They kind of corrected themselves for like this imbalanced reaction. And they were like, oh, my bad. Wow. That was definitely some fear coming up or some defense coming up or some antagonism coming up. And that's not true. So that's beautiful. To me, that's like wisdom, emotional maturity, personal responsibility. That's a sign of spiritual advancement, is to correct yourself like that. When your ego flares up, or the word we use instead of ego often is gremlin. When your gremlin flares up, and I know this is like not very IFS savvy, internal family system. The guy who, Dick Schwartz, came up with internal family system has a book called No Bad Parts. So yes, you can identify these parts, but they're not bad. They're just not you. They're not yourself. They're things that your psyche came up with in order to protect yourself, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. I like both. I talk about it in both ways sometimes. I just think it depends on what you're receptive to. Like, most people can't hear, like, that's your gremlin. That's your ego. That is your fear response. Like, this aggression that you have right now, that's not you. You don't need to identify with that. You can remember what you truly are, which is like a ball of love, which is joy, kindness, wisdom, care, good timing, good intuition, great friendship, humor, radiance. Like, that's what you truly are. That's what it always comes back to. That's always the awakening, is like, oh, I'm free. I'm fine. Oh my God. Whoa, I fell for that. I really believed that. I believed I was that thing. I believed I was that separate. I believed I was this pattern. I believed I was that. And then now I just remember, oh yeah. I'm free. I forgot. It's always how it goes. That's what remembrance is. That's what homecoming is. So with my friend, okay, so what I was saying is this has happened so many times, including when people misunderstand Bentinho. Again, if you haven't seen the earlier episodes, Bentinho is my spiritual teacher. He's one of my best friends. He's someone who I think is maybe the most advanced in this type of work of anybody that I've ever met. There are other people that are really advanced in different areas, and there's a lot of great teachers out there. Bentinho is my favorite, mostly because like, he gets so into, he just helps. So for me, for someone like me who wants to take it all the way, who wants to be enlightened, who wants to totally purify my not self, I want to become my full self. I want to be totally free. I want to be totally one. I want to be unified with God. I want to be aligned. And I don't want any hidden agendas. I don't want any ego to be convincing to me anymore. So, and that's something that Bentinho, he will like take, he will just, he's just so good at like understanding every phase of the journey, like every piece of it, and then guiding you through the breakthrough there. And for someone like me who is so curious and so determined, he's like the best resource. I can't imagine just a better resource. It's just so helpful. That's like what maybe my main compliment to him too is like, I'm just like, oh my God, that's so helpful. That's so helpful. Thank you. I was so stuck on this, or I was so confused with this, or I, just could not have I couldn't get through. I couldn't get over that breakthrough. Oh my God, so helpful. Thank you. So that's usually the thing I'm telling him. It's like such an understatement, but it's what I appreciate so much. So I was there. So when those people were around, I was also around. When those people were friends with Bentinho, one of them was a girlfriend, I was also around. So I knew how those dynamics went and what happens, like what actually happens. It's just like the situation with my friend where there's good intent, really good intent. Like, I'm on your team. I'm paraphrasing what Bentinho would be saying. I'm on your team. I'm helping you have a breakthrough that you've been saying you want. You say you want this. You ask for help. You insist. You came to me. You came here. You're like pursuing proximity to me and this team and this work. You say you want breakthrough. You say you want enlightenment. I think I'm gonna, like, what then? Do I ignore you? Do I avoid you? Actually, lately, that's been more the approach. That's sort of like our lesson learned is like, just because somebody says they love this work, they want to have these learnings, they want to have this awakening, they want to like get into the nitty gritty, they're hungry. Just because people say that doesn't mean you can take their word for it. So actually, indeed, Bentinho has become sort of, I don't know, harder to access, which I think is probably a good thing. It's like a bummer and a good thing at the same time. But that's what happened was like really good intent, really trying to cause breakthroughs to help these people. And then because they are identified, they're still identified with their old version or with the sort of pre-breakthrough aspect of themselves, because they still think that's them. They're still defensive of it. They're still protecting it. They still think that if he's calling that thing out, that means that he's calling them out, right? Like, it's this weird, it's always this paradox like this, or not a paradox, but it's kind of like a mirage, or like there's layers. So until you get back and you see from a higher perspective, until you're like, oh, and this is always how it is. I've been through this hundreds of times, that's not an exaggeration, hundreds of times where I'm like feeling offended, I'm feeling triggered, I'm feeling like Bentinho is like calling me out or insulting me, or he's like deliberately making me uncomfortable. And then I finally am like, okay, what if this is actually just a good teaching? What if this is a smart method? What if this is like the only way to really have me like see this thing and choose between either my old version or my true self, the changeless me that's already happy, already aligned, already free, already joyful, already can't be offended. And this is like the catalyst to have me be like, ouch, 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 I hate this. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, where's the relief? Because this gremlin, this ego gets no relief with Bentinho. No relief. So uncomfortable sometimes. So it's like, you have to choose. It's like, and then obviously he only does this for students or people who are like, I want to learn. I want to get this. I want to grow. I want to break through. I want to awaken. I want more freedom, more access to myself, more happiness. I want to be less triggerable. I want to be more resilient. I want to be less offendable. You get the idea. So in the cases of these people who've been so offended by him, and it's not only the people who knew him closely, intimately, I mean, people can be offended by Bentinho all the time for the same reason, because he's triggering something that is not you. And then what happens when you finally choose, like, okay, what's a higher perspective? What are you trying to show me? What is this teaching? Like, what are you reflecting back to me? Because clearly the thing that I think I am right now is hating this, feels uncomfortable, feels exposed, feels insulted, feels unsafe. So because I have already been through the ropes many times, I already trust your teachings, I already trust this type of learning. Let me just humble myself for a fucking second and ask myself, what are you trying to show me? What is your intent? What is really your intent? The impact already fucking sucks. The short-term impact sucks. It hurts. It's uncomfortable. I'm hating this. That's the short-term impact. But because I trust you, and I trust this work, and I trust teachings like this, and not only Bentinho, but other teachers. I've had this with other teachers too. I have this with my current group of friends. I trust you. I trust that you see something that I don't, and let me fucking lean in for a second and find out, despite my discomfort, if there's a better perspective here. And when I do that, and when I get that breakthrough and I'm above the water and I'm no longer swimming in the chaos and the confusion, and I finally get above the water, usually what happens is I cry, and I'm laughing and I'm crying and I'm grateful. And it's like, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for sticking with me through that. I'm sorry I was such a hassle. I'm sorry I threw such a fucking tantrum. Thank you. This is what I wanted all along. This is more important than anything I thought I wanted from that place. This freedom, this vantage point, 1,000 times more important, invaluable, priceless, compared to whatever comfort, whatever relief, whatever like objects of my preference I thought I wanted from that previous state. Horseshit compared to what I actually am now, what I remember now. The closer union with my true self, with God, with the universe, with source. Thank you. Thank you. And one experience like that is honestly enough. If you get one, I've had hundreds at this point. And the thing is with the ego, it'll flare up. That's what they do. They flare up, they insist, they dig their heels in, they make a really fucking good case. They make a great case. The ego can prove itself in court. The ego is made up of the mind. Okay? The ego is the mind. So if you think that you're more spiritually advanced than your ego has access to everything that you have access to. If you're thinking about the ego, that's the ego. That's the funny thing about the ego. Like the ego or the gremlin or the not you or the fearful version or the devil, the part of you that's like afflicted by the devil, whatever. I'm trying to say it in every way so that you can kind of put it in your context, has access to everything in your mind. So if you think you can outwit it and just be like, oh no, this is me. I'm fine. I don't need that. That's your ego. Like there's nothing, it doesn't have anything you think, your ego thinks. So that's what's so amazing is that it's like a surrender. You have to surrender to God. You have to see the mind. You have to be like, I'm none of this. This whole thing that's getting triggered, this whole version of myself that I feel protective of, that feels unsafe, that I feel defensive of, that feels right. It feels so right. It feels so threatened. It feels so true. Like this is, I need to stand up for this, or I need to hide, or I need to make a really good case. I need to bring some, I need to gather some other people and, get my crew. I need to reinforce it and strengthen this perspective. Like all of that, when you get right beyond it, it's like waking up. Really, it's like, huh? That's what? So, sorry, what was I believing? What was I falling for? What kind of stuff was I saying? That is insane. It's insane. That's what it feels like. It feels like a little insane drunk person that you were acting out this person. So, okay, hold on. I'm all over the place. So, I do feel like I'm conveying this in a way that maybe you can grab onto and like notice next time you're really offended or triggered and it makes you feel contracted and it makes you feel unsafe and it makes you feel blaming, makes you judge, makes you feel like those are the assholes, that guy, this person, though, the Democrats, the conservatives, the whoever. That sort of mentality is proof. It's proof that your ego is running the show, that your gremlin is the thing that's putting your thoughts in your head, because the awakening is beyond the mind. And the heart is like a really nice access point. So if you can get into your heart, I'll explain how to do that in a second. But it's like beyond the mind. We do have to get a little more spiritual here. But for example, you are still you no matter what you're thinking, right? Can you find that? Can you find that like you can have super stressed out thoughts? You can remember your stressed out thoughts from yesterday. You can remember your happy thoughts from 3 weeks ago. And you know that quality of like, you're still the same. That was still you. You have the memory. You have the memory. Your thoughts have been like this. It's not the thoughts themselves that have the memory because they were chaotic then and now they're like this and then they were like this. There's like a changeless you, just neutral, observing, along for the ride all the time. Same one when you were 4 years old, same one when you were 10 years old, same one when you're going to be 80, same you. In every experience you ever have, there's always that quality of just you-ness. And that is the beginning. That is the beginning of awakening, is to find that and to start looking at that. Just look at that. Hold on to that. See if you can make eye contact with that for 5 seconds in a row. Just do a little with your eyes. Just go vroom, and like look at the thing that's looking for a sec. And you notice it because the whole mind stops. And it's not that you like stop, you like pause your thinking by breathing or counting or something. It's like ding, your mind stops. You lock onto something. Your mind is just not, it's kind of like in your peripheral vision. And this has your attention. This has your awareness. Awareness, aware of itself. So, and that's where you are. And that's the breakthrough that I have over and over and over to different degrees, to different extents with Bentinho. When I have these breakthroughs or these awakenings, it's a perspective, a different perspective. It's going from like the perspective of the mind, the perspective of like stress, complexity, confusion, I need to solve something, linearity, urgency, like, you know what I'm talking about, to timeless remembrance. And then this, lo and behold, has humor, has joy, has bliss, has total compassion, total love, total understanding, freedom. You can be productive. You can have great work ideas. It's not like you sacrifice your life for this. From your mind's perspective, you do. Your mind is very protective of itself, or your ego or your gremlin is very protective of itself. So it will project onto spirituality or onto awakening or onto enlightenment or onto pausing the mind for 10 seconds and awareness being aware of itself. It'll project onto that it's either really hard or too spiritual or sacrilegious or not for you. You're not the kind of person that's for those other people. That's for, the monks and the Buddhists and I'm not the kind of person who can really do that kind of thing. Everybody can do it. But just notice your mind, which is not you, will have projections about awakening or clarity or wisdom or presence that convince you. And those are not you. That's just a convincing mind. So anyway, where was I going? I wanted to teach you guys how to get into the heart. My point is, awakenings are always, or breakthroughs are always moving more in the direction of your true self. So if I'm identified with, see it like layers or see it like radio stations. Lower radio stations, you're super identified. You're like this concrete ball. And then higher radio stations, you're just like infinite light, total open freedom, right? So you go from concrete ball that's like really victimized, really angry, really blaming, apathetic, negative, sort of self-protective and defensive and righteous about whatever it thinks. To, and there's layers to this, there's a whole range of radio stations, to infinite unity. So a breakthrough is always moving in the direction of that infinite unity. That's always what it is. It doesn't have to be all the way to the top. It can just be one notch up. It can just be a slightly better perspective. So, you feel like a total victim. You can feel kind of like accepting and tolerant and like, okay, maybe I'm not a victim. Let's see. Maybe I'm okay. That's a breakthrough. Like to actually get that new perspective, because now you're still looking out at the same thing, but you are from a new vantage point. You're coming from a new perspective now. And then everything changes. You can't tell me that everything doesn't change. Everything changes when you change. Everything changes when you change from where you look. When you change that perspective, that vantage point, that like, where are you sourcing your outlook from? What are you plugging it into? It's like you plug this electrical outlet into some source. And what is that? Like, are you, so you can sort of change from where you look. And as you change from where you look, everything changes. That's what a radio station is. You literally hear, it's a whole different world happening at each place. Even though maybe it looks like some of the same stuff, it's a whole different world. One good access point for this, so if you find yourself in one of these lower states, or you're projecting, or you're putting words in your friend's mouth because they tried to sort of support you and now you think they're attacking you, when you find yourself in one of these things, instead of just hopping to defense of whatever it is that you think you're right about, instead of just being like, yeah, see, here's the reason, and who else can I rally against you? Instead of hopping to that, see if you can feel your heart. And I mean this almost physically, but it's helpful to think of it physically. It's just a hack. I just want to teach you this quickly, and then we'll move on with safety. So when you're in it, like you're in the churn, notice how all of your like energy and attention and focus, it's all up here. Like you're all in your head. You're all in your like eyes and your brain. You're just like, all of it's here. And see, this might not work for everybody, but it does work for me. See if you can just like with force, just like push your attention down into your heart. And just use your imagination to do this. Almost like you have magnets in your hand, and that everything, all of this attention or bandwidth is also magnetic. So you can kind of like, by doing this, you just, and then hold your attention there. Like you have to use your attention to hold it there. Stay in your heart. Just stay still, stay still. You have to hold it for like 10, 20 seconds. Stay still, stay still. You can feel it. You start to kind of relax. You start to kind of chill. Just, you notice a little thought like hops back up here. Just go like this, magnetize it back down, get back to your heart. You'll notice your breath softens. And see from here, don't let it all go back up. Just trust that you can look from here. You can come from here. You can stay here. It's actually okay here. You don't need to return back to the head so that you can like fight and have opinions and make things make sense. And you are smart here. There's intelligence here. There's wisdom here. There's better ideas than there are up here. So, and it's just a permission slip. It's just an access point for a state change, for an improved perspective, for a perspective that is more unified with God or light or love or oneness or your true self. So, okay, I hope I don't have any loose ends I haven't tied yet. Okay, except for safety. What makes a friendship or a person safe? What makes it safe? And we already have sort of decided that coddling doesn't do it. That actually is counterproductive. It makes everyone feel gradually less safe. And bullying obviously doesn't do it, makes people feel less safe. So it's not either of those things. So what is it? Like imagine, like let's actually consider a safe friendship. First of all, you're not like, I think one of my safest friendships, especially growing up, was with my sister. I was not worried about losing her. Even if I offend her, we're going to be friends the next day. Even if she offends me, we're going to be friends the next day. Or I felt similarly with like my basketball friends growing up, or even later I played rugby for a year, and I appreciated that so much. This like girl group where we're traveling together, we're going through every mood together, we go through everything together. Sometimes we hate each other, sometimes we love each other, and we just are in it together. We're just in it together. So, but what makes it safe? I wouldn't say that that necessarily made those groups safe. But I do love that quality of like, we're gonna get through things. We're gonna talk it out. If we're having tension and we can't figure it out, we're gonna see if somebody else is gonna help us. So, but actually, like from a higher level, what makes it feel safe is, in my opinion, I think I will improve this opinion later, as I almost always do. Almost everything that I think right now, I will improve later. So this is just where I'm at right now. What makes it safe is that the person in question I'm not sold on this. But this is what I think, is that they take responsibility. They err on the side of responsibility. Simple. They err on the side of responsibility. So, and then there's obviously a whole bunch of prerequisites. Like the friendship has to be interesting. You guys have to have something in common. You have to have a shared goal or shared intention, sense of humor. None of that is what I'm talking about right now. What I'm talking about right now is what is actually the cause of that safe feeling of like, I can say anything. We will get through anything together. I can be annoyed with you. You can be annoyed with me. So, but I didn't feel this. This is my point. I didn't feel this in that moment with that one friend. This person could have cut me off. This person could have misunderstood me, misunderstood my intent, put words in my mouth, and then cut me off indefinitely, and then gossiped to all of our other mutual friends about me for the rest of my life. Could have happened. Didn't, thanks to this person's maturity and whatever, but I see it happen a lot. This isn't like an uncommon thing where people misunderstand each other, cut each other off, or sort of create little like pools of judgment where people rally against each other and sort of kick people out of the tribe or, whatever, where there's like politics around, a misunderstanding actually, because the gremlin or the ego feels threatened. So often people take that as evidence that they have been harmed or that they have been threatened, instead of as a catalytic gift, a reflection of something that they are trying to outgrow and transcend. So instead of seeing the truth of the situation, they see their interpretation, their sort of low-level shitty interpretation of the situation. They stick with that, and then they defend it and cut people out of their lives, set boundaries, and sort of train other people to treat them in a way that never touches that soft spot, that tender spot. So didn't happen obviously in the case with my friend, and it wouldn't, but I noticed I had that feeling of like, this is actually like a slight liability here. And it reminded me, it almost gave me a little PTSD of my friends who, made those podcast episodes against Bentino and me. And it's like, that's exactly what happened. There was like good intent, definitely good intent. I know for sure I was there. Misinterpreted from a shitty perspective, from a worse, more contracted, more self-obsessed, more negative, more victim-y, more blamey perspective, and then ran with, and then cut us out, and then did a whole cancellation campaign. I know that feeling. And from my perspective, it's maddening. It's like, you got it wrong. You misunderstood. It's so unsafe. And then they get to say that we were unsafe, that we're an abusive cult, and they are the whistleblowers. They escaped. They survived. They're cult survivors now. But they misunderstood. And the only unsafety, the only thing that was actually unsafe was that thing, that willingness to choose a bad perspective, a wrong perspective, and run with it, as opposed to understanding the truth of the situation. That's what made it unsafe. I mean, okay. So what makes a friendship safe or unsafe, or what makes someone safe or unsafe? And the thing that I just kept coming to is responsibility. And I know this is like the most unsexy term, but responsibility, somebody who takes responsibility for their state, for their understanding of things, for like they take responsibility. They don't blame. They don't lash out. They don't put words in other people's mouth. They don't, if they're wrong, they correct it. If they're confused, they ask. But that the responsibility for their well-being is on them. So, and this is something that is like, I know I'm safe. I know I'm safe. I know people can come to me with anything and I'm safe. I won't do that to them. I won't misunderstand people and then run with that. If I misunderstand and it's causing problems, we're going to talk about it. And if we have incompatibility, we can have incompatibility. But I don't, maybe responsibility isn't the best word, and maybe you guys can help me think about this. But I've been like literally sitting on the couch, looking at the walls, thinking about this. Like, what is that quality that makes a relationship or a friendship actually safe, where we will get through things, we understand each other's intent, we work through it until it's solved, and we like both get the higher perspective. We both get to that, like, oh yes, same page, aligned, unity, back to oneness. We're not doing this like strange political game where we're trying to sort of make each other look a certain way and straw man each other's arguments in front of other people's perspectives. And again, all of this goes out the window if there's real abuse happening. But in our case, there's not real abuse. Yes, things are uncomfortable. Like I was explaining, sometimes it's so uncomfortable. Sometimes it sucks. Sometimes I'm hating it. And then I have a little like moment of humility and like, let me see what's really going on. And then breakthrough. And it's like, oh, that's what you were doing this whole time. Oh my God. I thought you were just being an asshole. I thought you were just, trying to have your way. I don't know. I thought you were trying to do, I had my projection. I noticed those projections. And because I doubt my own projections. Maybe that's what it is. It's like taking responsibility for noticing, what in the fuck is it? It's a certain type of wisdom. It's a certain type of really actually wanting the truth and not just doing things for status or validation or to win, but actually wanting to know what's really going on. So anyway, I guess I don't have like a nice mic drop for you guys on this episode, but that's what I'm trying to figure out sort of, is like what makes a friendship or even like a teacher-student relationship or a team relationship or a family relationship, what makes that actually safe, where you can explore new ideas and you can help each other grow, where you can actually help each other grow and you're not at risk of being grossly misunderstood and misportrayed and attacked. It's like when the messenger get attacked instead of the message. Anyway, yeah, I'll think about this. I'm still going to share this episode. I think we got into some great territory. I'm sorry I didn't have like a nice final like bow on top at the end, but that's okay. We'll get to something amazing. Actually, I'm sure once my teammates watch this episode, like Romay, Mesh, Megan, Bentinho probably himself, my friends are going to have some great ideas about this. I'm already excited. Maybe I'll even bring them on for a follow-up conversation on this. Okay, guys, I think that's enough for today. I love you all very much. Mwah.